Hey, Adria, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm so happy you're here. Well, why don't we just start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself?
All right. So my name is Adria, as you've already said, and I am a message clarity coach, supporter of entrepreneurs, leaders, coaches around figuring out what it is that they really do, what the message is behind what they do so that they can connect with their people and really help them to communicate that in a way that their people see the value in it, they understand, they're kind of pulled into their mission, and that helps build their business and kind of grow their movement essentially.
Awesome. How did you even get into that?
Oh my gosh. So it's been a really big evolution, and I'm a big proponent of realizing that in entrepreneurship we are always evolving. We're always
Totally.
evolving into like whatever the next step is that
Yeah.
our business is going into. And so for me, it's been quite an evolution over the last several years that I've run an online business. I started out actually working more around wellness
Okay.
and ended
Me
up
too.
doing yeah, ended up doing my TEDx talk, right? Like it's this weird evolution, right?
Yeah.
I did my TEDx talk on how food fuels hustle, and I was like very into like business owners and entrepreneurs, and especially women in the world who have like a really strong mission behind their work and needing to keep going and not hit burnout. And so
Uh,
that was kind of my original passion, but I've always been really passionate specifically about supporting business owners.
yeah.
I saw their mission. I saw like this impact that if like I help people who are making an impact, I'm sure you understand that. You're like, it's probably part of your
Totally.
mission
You're speaking
yourself,
my
right?
language. I'm loving it.
And so I realized after doing my TEDx talk, after launching my podcast and all these different pieces, that the part that really lit me up was actually the messaging piece.
Okay.
Was the how are like what is it that you are feeling called to say? How do you say it? And like all of the communication and the clarity and like all of those pieces that make marketing so much more powerful,
Yeah.
and soul based. And so that's when I kind of in a roundabout way started supporting people and realized that I had already been supporting people around that all along, right? And started supporting like directly, okay, this is my gift and this is how I'm going to help you make sure you don't burn out and that you can keep going and that you're doing everything in a way that feels really good, and like you are doing your work, you are aligned with the type of work you're doing and also the message that you're sharing about your work.
Awesome. Well, I definitely want to dive into the message part of what you're teaching because I think that's so important for entrepreneurs. And you talk about stepping into being a true messenger. So, what does that mean to you?
So what that means to me is, I guess, a couple different levels. One is that what you're saying is your truth. That a lot of times people come to me and sometimes they feel called to use their voice. It's like they know that they have something to say, they're just not quite sure what it is yet.
Mhm.
And so part of that being a true messenger is knowing, okay, what is actually your truth that you're saying, because it'll feel so much better. There'll be fire behind it, and then that will attract the right people to you. But also this idea that if you are a true messenger, then you're someone who has a message in you, and your message might evolve over your business,
Yeah.
but it's more about just finding what feels true to you in that moment to share and to kind of call your people in through.
Okay, so how should we start developing this message if we're like brand new to being an entrepreneur?
Yeah. I think that's great, because one of the biggest mistakes that I make, and the reason I'm so glad you're asking this question,
Yeah.
that I see a lot of people making the mistake of jumping out into the marketing and having a lot of strategies, but not really having the core foundation that
Hmm.
makes everything else actually work.
Yeah.
That makes them stand out, makes them, you know. And so like this is like a fabulous time. So if someone is new, or if they maybe have been doing this entrepreneur thing for like a couple of years, but it feels like a struggle and it's not working, like that's a great place to like come back to and lay that foundation. So, and let me define a little bit what I mean by message before we even go any deeper into that.
Sure.
So message, what I mean by message is essentially the big idea. So if you did a TED Talk, what would your TED Talk be? That big idea behind your brand, behind your work, like what you stand for, a really strong opinion you share with the world. You want to share with the world something you want that to change about the world or to change about the people you care about in the world. So that's kind of like your core message. And then you have like what I think of as your messaging, which is all of like the language and communication and the ways you're talking about your work that go on your website or in your social media and marketing, in when you have a conversation at a networking event. Like that's kind of the bigger picture of your messaging. And that has a lot to do with what it is you do. Like what it is you do is kind of the way that you forward your message in the world, right? So it all ties together. So then when you're putting your marketing out, you have a thread to always come back to. That if everything always ties into that one thing you're getting known for, that TED Talk, that business TED Talk, I guess we could say, then there's something for you to get known for that is bigger than yourself and is like a mission that people can get behind. So it felt like I needed to like kind of preface this whole conversation around messaging with how I envision it and how I work with people around it.
Yeah, for sure. So if, I'm hoping people are taking notes so they can actually like write this stuff down, but what questions would you ask if you had like a private client that you were working with? What questions would you ask them to help them create their messaging?
Yeah. So one of the first things that I do before I even ask questions is we make sure that we're in an energy of kind of being open to clarity coming in. Because sometimes when we try to push things and we're like, I need to make this happen right now, it's like then our mind shuts off and we get blocked and we're really in our head. Like that can happen a lot with this type of work, is like getting in your head. So the first thing is maybe just take a couple of deep breaths and maybe put on a song and dance a little bit. I know movement really works for me. Just get out of your head a little bit. It's the first step that makes everything else more powerful.
Yep.
And then the first question I would ask is get out a piece of paper, a pen, and just journal along the thread of what is a really strong idea you have in the world, like a big opinion you have about your industry, something that you just wish you could shout from the rooftops. And sometimes that doesn't immediately come, especially if you're new to business. And so you can kind of do an opinion brain dump of like, what are all the opinions I have about my industry, and just kind of like set a timer for 5 minutes and just go to it, like stream of consciousness, not figuring it out. Just get it all out there and then look back through that list and see, which one do I have the most charge around? Which one do I get like fired up? And circle that one and start there with being like, okay, so I've got a starting point for what my core message could be. And that's the first part.
Okay. So then to get the rest of our messaging, what should we do?
Yeah. So then after that point, it kind of shifts into more of a communication part where okay, so I have the general idea of what my message is. Now, how am I communicating it so that people can get on board, or so that it shows the value of my work? And so then it's kind of looking at that thing you circled and, okay. And looking at whether it is clear to someone who hasn't been your client before, whether it's in like really, really plain language.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of now at this point taking it and moving it to that side of things. So maybe the opinion you circled was, I believe in fat positivity instead of fitting back into your skinny jeans. So maybe that was like, okay, that's my big opinion. And then it's like, okay, well, how do I turn it into an actual sentence that I want to take a stand for? So kind of lock in your mind. And have like, think about what the call to action is behind it. So if you wanted someone to do or change or adopt or shift something about their world, their lives, like your people, the people you want to support, then what would that be? And including that. So maybe it's and I feel like this isn't quite perfect, but I know you and I were talking about, we're both about imperfect actions. So
totally, just create something
off the top of my head.
You can make it better.
Yeah. So starting out, right, exactly. So starting out thinking, okay, so if you want to truly be happy in your body, then embrace your size instead of always trying to fit back in your skinny jeans.
Yeah.
So maybe it becomes something like that. And then that's a starting place of like, okay, there's a purpose behind this. There's a like what to do and why it matters. And there's my stance within it. So that's kind of like starting to shape it. And one of the things, like going deeper into this type of work with clients that I do is that this gets infused into like all your marketing and everything that you do. It's like, how does this further this mission, right? How is this a piece of this mission? So that, say with that, if that was my message and I'm a health coach or maybe body positivity coach, and I'm sharing a recipe or something, then it's not just about sharing a recipe. It's about, how is this recipe about just enjoying my life right now and not so much about the calories that are in it? Or how, if like maybe I'm sharing, mindset things, or like whatever it is, it's always in like the lens of what that bigger message is.
Okay. And do you think that we should have kind of like a gut feeling when we like reach our core messaging?
Yes. Yes, I definitely do. One of the exercises that can help you get to that place is, I like to do a visualization where you kind of close your eyes and you visualize that you are on the TED stage, or if standing in front of people sounds a little bit scary, then maybe you're on a podcast mic. And on the other side of that stage, or on the other side of the mic, are like all the people whose lives you want to change. Even if you don't know what type of person that is yet, it's just your people. And you open your mouth and out comes the thing that you just want them to know, you really want them to embrace. And if something's coming up for you at that moment, then likely it's something that's really charged for you. Because one of I guess, I don't want to say mistakes, because nothing is really a mistake with this, but one of the things to avoid is doing something because your brain said that it made sense. Because if you want a message that is going to light you up, and then that light inside of you is going to attract other people, like your energy is going to be so amazing, right? Then if you created it with your brain, it's probably not lighting you up.
Yeah.
Whereas if you feel something inside of you, like if that really matters to you a lot, if you have some charge behind it, then that's the energy you're going to bring to talking about it. You're going to want to talk about it more, right? And every time you talk about it, you're going to be really passionate, and that's going to attract people. So yeah, you definitely want to feel something. And it's something that continually evolves. Like I've had to continually evolve my own message and my business over the last several years, even up to like the end of last year. I was feeling a little bit like I was pushing really hard, and I didn't really feel like I was blocking clients. I was blocking opportunities. I didn't really feel like doing the work. I didn't really feel like talking about what I was talking about. And so I had a little bit of a crisis of message. And I was like, okay, I had to tap in and be like, what lights me up right now? What excites me? And do a little bit of pivoting in my business in order to be back in that space where I am energized and passionate and excited about it again.
Okay, cool. I like that. So one of the things I always say is clear is better than clever. Do you agree? And how do you think we can get clear with our messaging?
Oh, wow. That's crazy because that's one of the things that I say.
Ah,
Excellent. All right, we're in the right
yes.
place. Uh, yeah, so one of my I guess one of my core principles is clear over clever.
Yeah.
And that is a huge um piece in all of my work because I work with a lot of coaches. So life coaches are notorious for this, of having like really ambiguous language, very flowery, and very clever, like trying to tie things together or say things in a way that sounds a lot prettier than just what it is.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times it doesn't connect with their people.
Yep.
Like the most important thing is connecting to your people. So because you're doing this work like in relationship to the people you're serving. So whether you have clients or customers, like, like the whole point of putting your message out there is to connect.
Yeah.
And so so let me think of a couple of examples. So one of my clients used to say that she was a soulful nourishment specialist. It was kind of like, what is that? And then she would talk about that she helps her clients blossom into the full color version of themselves. And it's really, really pretty.
Right.
But
What does that
it
mean?
leaves it leaves your potential client not being quite sure like what they'll do with her or why her work matters to them or if she's even for them. And so the rule of thumb is just to get it as clear and as simple and concrete and visual as possible. So then when you're talking about what you do, your people can actually visualize who it is you're talking to.
Yep.
Like what they're experiencing. And that can be really hard. It can be really hard, especially for people who are really talented.
Yeah.
So like if some of my clients have been in business for 20 years. And they're some of the ones that have the hardest time with this because they are so entrenched in their own, the way they do things, their skill set, the training they've had, that they look at it through their own lens.
Yeah.
And so at that point, what like the first step to really moving through that is to, like I say, take your coach hat off. So take your expert hat off and set it to the side and look at everything through the eyes of your people. And I know you talked about that. I've seen episodes and other things where you've talked about like getting to know what your people actually want and need and think about.
Yep.
And like that's the basis of everything, is being able to look at everything first through your person's eyes, so that then you can craft communication and language and messaging that really is going to connect with them.
For sure. I actually just did a bunch of blog reviews for students of my course, and I would say a bunch of them, I was just looking at the headline of their blog, and I'm just saying, I don't know what that means. I don't know what the messaging means. I don't know who it is that you help. And so if we're going to change anything right now, it's going to be that messaging. And I should come to your blog from Pinterest, and I know exactly who it is that you are and who it is that you help and how you help them. And so that was one of like the core things that I had them change. I said, it's cute. It's a little too clever, but it's not clear. And I need to be like super clear if I'm coming from Pinterest, landing on your blog, who is it that you help and how do you help them? And I think that's one of the major things. If you're taking notes, write it down. Who do you help? How do you help them? And just be clear with that.
And one of the really powerful things that probably has the most aha moments when I'm working with clients and in my course is to do what I call the tool to problem pivot.
Okay.
And so, because a lot of us as business owners, we talk about our tools or our process or like a lot of the how stuff, but to really get clear on, okay, well, what's the actual problem you're solving for them? Like what is it that they feel like they're struggling with? Not what you see that they need,
right?
But like, once again, like expert hat off, like from their perspective, what do they feel like they're struggling with? So you can use that language. Like, so when you go to when they go to your website, then they're like immediately like, okay, like you're speaking to me because this is exactly what was going on in my head. You're talking about it right now. And like, obviously I'm going to read a little bit more.
Yes. So, so key. Awesome. How do we discover what makes us unique and really stand out?
Mm. So one of the first ways to tap into that is to remember that you are already unique, right? That it's really just figuring out how to communicate that or how to help other people see that, but just realizing that you are one of a kind because you have your own story.
Mm.
You have your own stance,
Yes.
your own skill set, your solution, that problem you solve. Like those four things together, even if someone had the same skill set or the same solution, they when you have those four pieces, it's a completely unique combination to
Yep.
you.
Yep.
So kind of starting to get a sense of, okay, what are all those four things for yourself? You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
what is your story of how you came to doing this work? Like what aha moment did you have that made you realize why this is so powerful, or why this thing you do is so important, or like what is that brand story behind what you do, right? Because that's going to be completely unique. And what is the skill that you bring to your work? So it might be like one of my clients, she coaches actors to help them move through stage fright and like kill their auditions, but she's also a hypnotherapist. So like she's a coach and a hypnotherapist. So when we kind of looked at positioning, okay, how do we show the value that's unique in your work? Well, you are able to coach people through stuff, but you're also able to pull everything to the surface with this hypnotherapy so that you can release it. So like, yeah, your skill set, like how does like what things together might be really unique about you.
Mm-hmm.
And the solution you have, just being really clear about that, having it in really clear language that connects with people, you're going to be already like way further ahead than most people. And your stance, which we talked about, your message, your core message, like having that really clear. Some people don't even have a core message or have a stance behind what they do. So having those four pieces, it'll be really powerful.
Can you name the four pieces again so people can
Yes.
take notes and write them out?
Yes. So there's four S's.
Yeah.
So you have your stance. So that's essentially your message.
Okay.
You've got your solution. That's that problem you solve for people. You've got your story. So your brand story, your aha moment, how you came to do this work. And you've got your skill set. So what is that methodology? What training do you have? Like, what are you bringing to the table?
I love this. I think so many people doubt themselves because they see somebody else doing what they want to do and they think, well, they're already doing it, so I can't do it too. Or they think there's not enough space for them. But when you talk about those four S's, it makes you understand that we're all unique and we all have something different of value to offer. And I might teach Pinterest and someone else teaches Pinterest, but people will come to me because of my story or my personality and my messaging and the way I put it out there.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Yes.
So good. Well, why don't you tell us about your experience at TEDx? So how did you actually get to speak at TEDx?
Yes. And this is great because I actually, I just released an episode of my podcast last week as we're recording this.
What is your podcast so we know?
Oh, yes. So I have a podcast. It's called Unforgettable.
Okay.
And I talk about a lot of the things we're talking about today. So messaging, the core brand pieces that go on behind the business, the foundation, how you're using your voice, being seen, being that messenger in the world and doing it in a way that draws people back to your business and communicates clearly. So yes, so on my podcast last week, I just did an episode where I chatted with a TEDx organizer, and I'm a TEDx speaker. So it was kind of a nice, unique dual perspective on kind of how to ace your audition or how to do the whole process. So this is totally top of mind for me.
Yes.
And so doing TEDx, my TEDx talk was a little over 3 years ago at this point. And I will tell you that when I applied, I didn't feel like I was ready. So a lot of people, a lot of honestly beginners who go through my group program and come out the other side, even though we don't even work on anything around doing a TEDx talk, they end up applying because they have so much clarity around their message. They're like, okay, I can, go spread this now.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I applied, I wasn't at that place of being like, okay, this is the next obvious step in my career evolution. It was more of, I felt like really strong in my message. I felt like I needed something to share it. And I had a lot of passion behind my work and what I did. And so I found out that there was a TEDx Women event that was local. I live in Las Vegas. So there was a local event, and I got notified, like I went on the wait list, like to be notified when the next round was coming up. And so I got notified, and I was like, I am someone who grew up painfully shy. Like at my wedding, I didn't have a real wedding. I just had like a small one because I was really scared of everyone looking at me as I walked down the aisle.
Yeah.
So I just had like a private like party and gathering. And so just know that when I talk about like applying for a TEDx talk, like that's coming from that background. But at the time, I had just done a speaker training the year before, and I kind of fell into that training where like I was leading this one day event, and one of my friends was like, oh, cool, you're going to be leading this event. You're probably going to be doing a lot of speaking at it. I have a friend who's leading this training. It's live in person. It's over 3 months. Like, let me connect you guys. And so I ended up doing that speaker training, and it kind of shifted everything for me because I didn't up to that point, like I have a master's in botany and plant ecology. So I had done a lot of presentations, but they were very like scientific and this is what it is. And they weren't transformational speaking.
Yeah.
So I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. But that speaker course that I was taking, we would meet, I think it was once a month. We would meet in person in this little home that had been retrofitted into a business, and we would be in the living room. And I think there was probably 8 of us women, and it was just helping us essentially do TED style speaking, like transformational speaking. And that was when I kind of realized that I had the power to create shifts in people, that I had the power with my words and my language and my message to help people have an aha moment that would leave them changed. They would leave them thinking differently about the world or life, or create some shift in their life. And so that's why when TEDx applications came up, I felt like, well, I'm going to apply it and let's see what happens. I'm going to take that step. And so I did. And we had to do an audition. I think I was like the first one on the list because like I hit like replied as soon as like the invitation came out. And so I went in person to the audition. We had to audition a 3-minute piece of our talk. And I prepared before that. I thought I like really dove into my messaging work. I really got super passionate about clarifying, what my core message was and being able to communicate it so people understood it and got it and felt it. And I brought that to the audition and I got the talk, and there was a lot of people who applied. But I was so solid, and I brought the passion and I brought the clarity of messaging that they chose me. And so then after that, then I had to, put together an actual TEDx talk.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, but I, that's why I say, if you have the passion behind what you're doing, if you get the clarity in your message, then so many things are possible that you don't even realize right now.
I love that. So cool that you're the 3rd person who's spoken at TEDx that I've interviewed in like the past month. And so I know. And so I'm like, is this a sign or something? Like, so crazy. It's so funny. Do you see any common mistakes besides trying to be too clever instead of clear with messaging? Do you see any others that entrepreneurs are making?
Well, one huge one is the doing everything from our own perspective and creating without really tapping into what our people want and what they're feeling and struggling with and thinking. And definitely like actually having conversations with your people is a big part of that.
Huge.
And also the taking your expert hat off is like a really big part of that too. So that's a huge one that I see.
Yep.
And I guess recapping for a moment, the tool to problem pivot of looking at, remembering to look at your work as the problem you're solving and not always as the process you're using to solve it.
Yeah.
So those are like probably the biggest ones that I see. And when people are coming to me because they feel like they're struggling to get clients or things just aren't connecting with their people. I feel like those are the top ones that if you are able to tackle those, then it'll create a big shift.
Awesome. I love that. What does it mean for you to make an impact?
For me, it means that specifically in my business, it means that I'm supporting other people who are making an impact. And in, I guess, just in general in my life, it really means that I'm making conscious decisions and that I'm thinking about how those decisions will impact others. And I'm leading with the heart and the soul and the fire so that then everything I'm doing makes a bigger impact, because it's not just like flatlined. It's like there's the energy behind it.
Yes. So good. So good. Well, what's next for you?
So one of the things that I've been doing a lot lately is talking about message and talking about like TEDx talks or starting podcasts or different things like that. Like, how can you find the next evolution of your message? What is it that if you're pivoting, if you're feeling called that like this isn't what I'm saying doesn't feel right, or what I'm doing with people doesn't quite feel right anymore, I'm feeling called to move into something else. Like, those are a lot of the things that I've been talking about probably the last few months on my podcast, in my business, with clients and workshops. Like, that's been a really big focus. And at this point, I'm stepping back into some of the work that I haven't done for probably about a year. And that would look like leading my group program again, get clear, get clients, maybe running a challenge again. Like, I've done 5 or 6 challenges that are just super fun, like get everyone to play together. And some of these things that like that are maybe more back to the beginner level of supporting a lot of people so that they can like lay these foundations and get all this communication clear, get all their messaging, like the messaging foundation really locked in.
Yeah.
Because that's what my group program is like. One of the main things around it is getting clear on what is your message? How are you communicating it? How is it showing up in your marketing? Just all of that foundation that makes everything so much more powerful. And I've really been feeling like getting back in group, getting back in with the group, because I've been doing a lot of one-on-one work.
Yeah, I love that. Well, where can we connect with you?
So Unforgettable Podcast is a fabulous first place to go. And for those who are wanting to really get clear on what your core message is, because we talked a lot about message today, I have a freebie that I created to help like really dial this in and help lead you through a lot of the things we talked about. But there's a couple steps to take you even deeper. And you can grab that at adriadecorte.com/message, and I'll give you the link.
We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. And then one of my other favorite places to be lately is Instagram. Like, Instagram stories is just like, since I have a podcast and it's like can be one-sided so often, that's my place for really connecting with people. So come find me, watch some Instagram stories, reply and say hi. And that would be super fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for adding value to my people. We appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you. This has been super fun.
Yep. Bye.
Bye.